The silent fear of the Empire was vast, shining with countless stars, stretching from one spiral arm to another. It ruled thousands of worlds, millions of colonies, and billions of people. The rulers believed nothing could challenge their power. Their fleets were unmatched. Their armies crushed every rebellion. Their voice was law in the galaxy, yet hidden deep in the Imperial archives. There was one warning that no one dared to read aloud. It was written in old words, copied from older words. It spoke of a race long gone. The humans. The record said that when humans went to war, no empire survived for centuries. The story was treated as myth, a tale told to frighten cadets or to amuse scholars. The Empire laughed at it, saying humans were weak, fragile, too emotional to survive. It was believed that they had destroyed themselves long ago, leaving nothing behind but ruins and silence. But now, something had changed at the edge of the Empire, near the cold stars where no one lived. Strange signals began to appear. At first they were faint, only small whispers in the deep void. The Empire's listening posts dismissed them as background noise, but the signals grew stronger, sharper, deliberate. Captains of patrol ships reported strange shadows moving in dark space. Scanners picked up massive shapes that did not match any known design. Reports were filed and then quickly buried by Imperial command. The High Council did not want panic, but whispers spread anyway. On a mining colony far from the core, a group of workers claimed to see a black shape pass across the stars. Bigger than any ship they had ever seen, it moved without sound, without light, like a shadow sliding through the void. Within hours, their message was silenced. No one heard from that colony again. In the great cities of the Empire, few paid attention. People were too busy with their lives, but among the admirals, fear grew. The reports matched something they had seen before, something from the forbidden archives. The shape, the silence, the way the signals moved, all pointed to one possibility: the humans. Old veterans remembered the last time humanity fought, long before the Empire was born. Legend said that whole fleets were erased in minutes, that humans fought with speed and fire no one could match. But those were just stories, or so everyone thought. Now the admirals began to ask themselves, what if the stories were true? What if humanity had not vanished? What if they had only gone silent, waiting? An emergency council was called in the Imperial capital. Governors from distant worlds appeared in holograms. Generals stood in silence, advisors argued with one another. Some said it was nothing but pirates. Others said it was new technology from rival species. But one elder spoke quietly, and his voice silenced the hall. "It is them," he said. "The humans." The chamber froze. The words carried weight heavier than any order or law. The Emperor himself leaned forward, his golden mask hiding his face. He asked, "Are you certain?" The elder nodded. "The signals, the silence, the design. It is all the same, they are back." Fear rippled through the council. No one wanted to believe it. Yet the evidence grew with each passing hour. Fleets that were sent to the border failed to report back. Patrols vanished. Stations went dark. The silence spread like a storm. In the streets of the Empire, rumors began. People whispered about the return of the ghosts. Some laughed, but others trembled. Mothers told their children to stay close. Merchants hoarded supplies, and soldiers looked to the stars with dread on the outer rim. A young lieutenant named Kara watched her scanners. Her ship floated near an abandoned sector. Suddenly the screens lit up. A shape appeared, massive, silent. Its surface black as night. She froze. Her crew whispered prayers. The scanner screamed warnings. But the shape did not attack. It simply drifted past, enormous, unstoppable. Kara recorded everything and sent it back to command. Her last words before the transmission cut were clear. "It is here." The Empire received her message. And in that moment, the silent fear became real. The Emperor stood alone in his chamber, looking out at the stars. For the first time in his reign, he felt small. He remembered the old warning, words etched in ancient stone: never face humans in war. And now, after centuries of silence, the Empire's greatest fear had returned. The warship appears. The Empire had seen many enemies in its long rule, but nothing prepared them for what came next. Days after the first signals, the border systems fell silent. Patrol ships vanished, and no answers came back. Only fragments of broken transmissions, whispers of shadows, flashes of fire, then nothing. The fear inside the council grew like a storm. Admirals gathered in secret rooms looking at old maps. Comparing them with the new signals, one truth kept returning. The source was not random. It moved with purpose, as if someone was testing the Empire, measuring its strength. Then came the moment that changed everything. A fleet of 50 Imperial ships waited at the edge of a dead star system. They were ordered to intercept whatever moved in the dark. The admirals watched through live feed. Their soldiers were ready, their weapons charged, their commanders confident. The void was silent. Then, without warning, the darkness split. A massive shape emerged from nothing. It was not built like any ship of the Empire. It was longer, sharper. Every edge seemed like a blade. Its surface black, swallowing all light. Scanners struggled to lock on. It was as if the ship itself refused to be seen. One commander whispered, "What is that?" An elder admiral stood, his voice shaking. "Human." The Imperial fleet surrounded the ship. Weapons aimed, messages sent, but no reply came. The warship floated alone, silent, calm, as if it was not surrounded at all. The admirals ordered a warning shot. One Imperial cruiser fired at the dark ship. The beam struck, but instead of damage, the energy bent around the surface like water flowing over stone. No mark was left, no flame, nothing. The warship finally moved, slowly turning its sharp hull toward the fleet. The silence became heavier, as if the stars themselves were holding their breath. Then it spoke. A voice filled every channel, every screen, every ship. It was not shouted, not angry, it was calm. "Cold, human. We have returned." The words froze the fleet. Soldiers trembled, captains forgot to breathe. Even the admirals at the council chamber stared in shock. The Empire had heard that voice before. In history, in the old wars, but none of them expected to hear it again. Panic struck the Imperial fleet. Orders clashed, some ships retreated, others prepared to fire. But before they could act, the warship moved. It did not unleash a storm of weapons. It did not destroy them all instead. One single strike left the fleet broken. A flash of power erupted from its side, silent and clean, in less than a second. 12 Imperial cruisers were gone, erased from existence. The rest of the fleet scattered. Commanders begged for retreat. Soldiers abandoned formations. The admirals cut the feed in panic. They could not watch their proud fleet crumble in moments on the streets of the Empire. People began to whisper louder. The ghost ship, the human warship, had returned. The Emperor demanded answers. His mask hid his fear, but his voice shook. How many of these ships exist, no one knew. Spies searched, scouts sent. But the warship moved like a phantom, appearing and vanishing, always one step ahead, wherever it appeared. Silence followed, systems went dark. Fleets disappeared, hope shattered on one border world. Children pointed at the sky as the warship passed above. Its black shape blocked out the stars, no weapons fired, no cities burned. It simply drifted on, as if studying, as if waiting. The people fell to their knees, praying. Some to the Empire, others to the forgotten name. Humanity inside the council. Chaos ruled. Some demanded war, others demanded surrender. One voice spoke what none wanted to hear. If this is only one ship, then we are already lost. The Emperor said nothing. He only turned back to the window, staring at the stars. The old words echoed in his mind. Never face humans in war, and yet here they were, returned from nowhere. With a ship that no empire could understand, the warship drifted on, silent, unstoppable, and the Empire's nightmare had just begun. Panic across the Empire. The appearance of the human warship sent shockwaves across the Empire. News spread faster than any official could control. From the richest core world to the poorest mining station, whispers became storms. People gathered in markets, streets and halls, speaking of the black ship that swallowed fleets whole. Some laughed nervously, saying it was impossible. Others swore they had seen the recordings before the Empire deleted them. Every whisper grew into fear. Every shadow in the sky made people look twice. On frontier planets, fear turned to chaos. Traders refused to travel. Colonies refused to pay taxes, saying they needed their resources to prepare for what was coming. Governors sent desperate messages to the capital, begging for protection, begging for answers, but no answers came. In the military academies, cadets who once laughed at the human myths now studied them with trembling hands. Old instructors dusted off ancient reports, speaking of human tactics, their strange way of fighting, their refusal to surrender. Some cadets refused to believe, but others felt the weight of the truth on one desert world. An old veteran named Jorek spoke to a group of young soldiers, his face scarred from battles long past. "You think the Empire is strong," he said, "but I fought in the days when humans still walked the stars. And I tell you this, if that ship is truly human, then all of you should pray." His words spread, passed from soldier to soldier, until even the bravest began to fear. In the imperial capital, the council fractured. Some demanded immediate retaliation, others demanded silence. One governor shouted, "If we show weakness, the people will rise against us," another replied. "If we show strength, The humans will crush us. The hall filled with anger, fear, and silence. The Emperor watched them all from his throne. Hidden behind his golden mask, he said nothing, but his silence was louder than any voice. Meanwhile, the warship continued to move, appearing near systems and then vanishing again. It never fired unless provoked, yet every fleet sent against it ended in disaster. The ship never chased, never pursued, it only drifted on, leaving behind wreckage and terror on a small agricultural world. Farmers stood in their fields when the sky grew dark. The warship passed slowly above, silent and massive, blocking the sun for minutes. No weapons fired, no words spoken. The farmers dropped to their knees, some wept, some prayed, and when the ship vanished into the void, they spread the tale. The ghosts have returned, they said. The humans walk again. Merchants and spaceports raised their prices, selling food, fuel, and weapons to frightened crowds. Priests declared the return of the humans as punishment for the Empire's pride. Some citizens began to form secret groups, whispering that perhaps humanity had come to free them. Panic turned into unrest on border colonies, riots began. On wealthy worlds, protests erupted. The Empire's soldiers struggled to contain the anger, but even they feared the shadows in space in one quiet chamber. The Empire's scholars searched the forbidden archives, reading every line about humanity. They uncovered old writings that chilled their blood. Humans never vanish. They wait, they learn. And when they return, they strike where you least expect. The scholars shared this with the council, but the governors shouted over them, demanding to know how many ships humanity had. No one could answer, not even the Emperor. Then came a new broadcast, this time not from the Empire, but from the warship itself. A calm voice filled every system, every device, every ship. "We do not come for conquest," it said. "We come because you forgot." The words shook the Empire more than any battle. What did it mean? What had they forgotten? The council panicked. Some shouted to ignore it. Others demanded war, but across the galaxy, citizens began to question their rulers if humans had returned. If they were truly as powerful as the legend said, then perhaps the Empire's reign was not eternal after all. In secret, some worlds began sending quiet signals into the void, hoping the humans would hear, hoping for mercy. The Emperor stood alone in his tower, looking at the stars, his heart heavy, his mind filled with dread. He knew what was happening. The Empire was not just fighting a warship, it was fighting memory. It was fighting fear, and fear was spreading faster than any fleet could travel. The first message, the Empire believed silence was their shield. If they controlled the news, if they destroyed every recording, maybe the people would forget. Maybe fear would fade, but they were wrong, because the warship did not stay silent. It appeared near the twin moons of Valkara, a system known for its trade routes. Thousands of ships passed through every day. Merchants, travelers, soldiers, none of them expected to see history itself in the sky. The human warship came out of nothing. Not through a jump gate, not with hyperspace trails. It simply appeared, as if the void itself gave birth to it, black and sharp. Swallowing the starlight, panic erupted. Traders screamed over comms. Escorts armed their weapons. Civilians begged for guidance. The Imperial fleet nearby rushed to intercept, but before they could fire, a voice filled every ship. Every planet, every channel, "We have returned." The words were calm, heavy, they carried no threat. Yet they shook the galaxy like thunder. Every heart froze, every mouth went silent. It was not just sound, it was power. Old and cold, the Empire tried to jam the signal, but it spread too fast, too deep. No technology could stop it. Within hours, billions had heard it. Within days, every corner of the Empire whispered those three words. Governors shouted for control. Admirals demanded counterattacks. Priests declared it the voice of doom. But the people only remembered the old legends their rulers tried to erase. In one mining station, a child asked her father, "Is it true? Are the humans back?" The father, who had once served in the border fleets, had no answer. He only looked at the stars with fear. In the imperial capital, the council was in chaos. Recordings of the message played again and again. Some argued it was a trick. Others said it was proof. One governor screamed, "They are warning us!" Another shouted, "They are mocking us." The Emperor raised his hand, silencing them all. His golden mask shone in the chamber light. His voice was cold. "If they have returned, then we must know why." Spies were sent, fleets dispatched, secret agents infiltrated the border, but none returned with answers. The warship moved like a phantom, sometimes visible, sometimes gone, leaving only silence and echoes of that one message. Meanwhile, among the people, the meaning of the words twisted. Some believed it was a promise that humanity had come back to save them from the Empire. Others believed it was a threat. That war was coming, that nothing could stop it. A quiet rebellion began to stir. Secret groups painted the words on walls. "We have returned." They whispered it in alleys. In markets, in barracks, soldiers began to doubt. Citizens began to dream in one hidden sector. An old scholar uncovered a fragment of human writing. "We speak not to conquer, but to remind, for memory is the sharpest blade." He trembled as he read it aloud, realizing the humans were not only returning with ships, but with purpose. The Empire tried to respond. They broadcasted their own message across the stars. The Empire stands eternal. The Empire fears no myth. But the people did not believe. For every time they heard the Empire's voice, they remembered the calm human words, and the Empire's denial only made the truth heavier in secret chambers. The admirals whispered what they dared not say in public. If one warship could do this, what would happen if more came? How many were waiting in the dark? Then days later, a second broadcast came. Not just words this time, but an image. Every screen flickered, every hologram shifted, and the black warship appeared before them all. Towering, silent, real. The voice followed, calm and steady. "We do not seek your worlds, we do not seek your wealth. We only seek what you forgot." The message ended, leaving more questions than answers. What had they forgotten? What debt remained? What truth had the Empire buried? Fear became dread. Dread became despair, and still the warship drifted on. Untouched, unstoppable, and across the Empire, one thought echoed in every heart. The humans had returned, and they had not come for conquest, they had come for something worse. The test of strength. The Empire could not stay silent any longer. The people demanded answers. The governors demanded strength, and the admirals demanded war. They could not allow one ship, even a human ship, to humiliate them before the galaxy. So the Emperor gave the order. A fleet was assembled, not a small patrol, but one of the largest strike forces the Empire had ever gathered in one place. 500 warships, cruisers, carriers, destroyers, all armed with the newest weapons. Their mission was simple: surround the human warship, test its power, prove to the galaxy that the Empire still ruled the stars. The fleets gathered near the Crimson Nebula, a place where light bent strangely. The human ship had last been seen drifting into its mist. The admirals believed it was hiding, perhaps damaged, perhaps weak. They told themselves victory was near. When the fleet arrived, the nebula glowed red around them. Scanners searched, soldiers waited. The silence was unbearable. Then, out of the fog, the black shape emerged. The human warship. It came slowly, drifting with calm, its sharp edges cutting through the crimson clouds. It carried no banners, no signals, no sound, yet every Imperial soldier felt its presence press down on them, heavy as stone. The admirals ordered the fleet to surround it. Rings of ships formed around the warship. 500 against 1, their weapons locked, their engines burned bright. One commander declared proudly, "Today, the ghost will be broken," but the ghost was not afraid. The warship moved with eerie silence, turning its hull to face the fleet. Then it stopped, waiting, almost as if inviting them to strike. The admirals gave the order. The first wave fired, beams of energy, missiles, plasma, all streaking through the nebula toward the black hull. The explosions lit the void with fire. But when the light faded, the warship was still there. Untouched, the weapons had bent, scattered, or simply vanished before reaching its armor. Panic rippled through the Imperial lines, but the admirals screamed for another volley. Another wave came, and again the ship stood unharmed. Then for the first time the warship responded, its surface lit with faint blue lines like veins of fire. Then a single flash erupted from its side, not loud, not chaotic. Just one beam, clean and silent, it cut through space, slicing an Imperial carrier in half. 5,000 lives gone in a heartbeat. The fleet staggered, but the admirals demanded they hold formation. More ships fired. More light filled the nebula, but the human vessel only answered with another strike. Another single beam. Another ship gone. The message was clear. It did not need hundreds of weapons. It needed only one. Soldiers began to break. Their voices filled the comms. "We cannot fight this. We cannot win." Some ships tried to retreat, but the admirals forced them back into line. Discipline against terror, yet the terror grew. The warship moved again, this time faster, gliding between the Imperial lines. Every shot it fired erased another cruiser. Every movement sent shock through the fleet. 500 ships became 400. Then 300. The numbers fell too quickly. In the council chamber, the governors watched the live feed. Their faces pale, one shouted, "Stop this madness. Call them back," another whispered. "We are killing our own soldiers." But the Emperor remained silent, his golden mask hiding the fear in his eyes. After only 1 hour, the great fleet was broken, half destroyed, half fleeing. The nebula filled with burning wrecks, twisted metal, drifting bodies. The human warship stood alone in the center, untouched, calm, victorious, but it did not chase the survivors. It did not strike the fleeing ships. It only drifted back into the crimson fog, disappearing as silently as it had arrived. The test of strength was over, and the Empire had failed. In the aftermath, fear became despair. Citizens mourned the lost fleets. Soldiers whispered that no one could stop the humans. Governors demanded new plans, but none came. The Emperor stood once more at his window, his voice soft, unheard. So this is the strength they kept hidden. The nightmare was no longer myth, it was truth, and the Empire now knew. One human warship was enough to shat the hidden truth. The Empire was broken but not yet ready to admit defeat. The governor shouted louder than ever, demanding vengeance, demanding more fleets. But the admirals no longer believed. Their voices were quiet, their eyes heavy. They had seen what no soldier should ever see. 500 ships had faced one, and 500 ships had fallen. In the shadows of the capital, a different kind of battle began. The scholars and record keepers returned to the forbidden archives. Opening vaults sealed for centuries, their orders came from the Emperor himself. Find the truth about humanity. Find the reason they vanished. Find a weapon that can be used against them. Dust rose from old machines. Lights flickered as hidden records came alive. Thousands of scrolls, data crystals, and fragments of history filled the halls. The scholars worked without rest, and what they uncovered chilled them to the core. The Empire had not destroyed humanity. As the stories claimed, humanity had walked away long ago. Before the Empire rose to power, the humans had seen the corruption of the galaxy. They had seen how empires rose and fell, how rulers crushed their own people, how greed consumed every star instead of fighting endless wars. They withdrew, they vanished into the void. They chose silence, but their silence was not weakness. It was preparation. The humans built in the shadows, creating warships unlike anything the galaxy had ever known. Silent, sharp, deadly, hidden in dark corners where no empire dared to look. The archives told of an old betrayal, when the first emperors of the current dynasty begged the humans for help against invaders. Humanity gave aid, they fought, they bled, and they won. But when the war ended, the Empire turned on them, branding them dangerous, erasing their names from history, hunting their colonies, until humanity vanished from the stars. But they had not been destroyed. They had been waiting. A scholar read the final line of one hidden record aloud, his voice trembling. When they return, it will not be for conquest. It will be for debt. The governors demanded to know what that meant. But the Emperor understood. The debt was not of money or territory. It was of betrayal. Humanity had been wronged, and now they had come back to collect. Panic grew deeper. If the humans remembered betrayal, then nothing could stop their judgment. The Emperor summoned his closest advisors. He asked one question: how many ships do they have? But no one could answer. If one ship had done this much, then an entire fleet would be beyond imagination. Out in the galaxy, more sightings came in one frozen system. Miners reported seeing not one warship, but 3 black shapes drifting in formation. In another sector, a convoy swore they saw a fleet pass by. Silent as shadows, fear became certainty. The lone warship was not alone. It was only the beginning. Meanwhile, among the common people, whispers turned into hope. Many saw the humans not as monsters, but as saviors. If they came for the Empire, maybe freedom would follow? Secret groups painted their symbols on walls, calling themselves the children of Earth, waiting for the humans to arrive. In the barracks, soldiers spoke in hushed voices. Some said they would lay down their arms if humans appeared. Others said they would join them. Loyalty to the Empire cracked like glass under pressure. And in the council chamber, the Emperor at last broke his silence. His golden mask reflected the torchlight, his voice heavy. "We betrayed them once, and now we face the cost," the governor shouted. "Then we must strike first. Destroy them before they destroy us." But the admirals lowered their heads. They knew it was too late. Humanity was already here, their power already proven. The hidden truth was out. Humanity had not returned for conquest. They had returned for justice, and justice was always sharper than any blade or their greatest armada. The Empire trembles. The Empire was no longer the master of the galaxy. It was a shadow trembling in fear. After the truth was revealed, every world knew. The humans had not been destroyed. They had not been weak. They had been patient, preparing in silence while the Empire laughed at their memory. Now they had returned, and the galaxy itself held its breath. In the outer rim, the sightings multiplied. It began with one warship, then three, then whole groups of them drifting through the void, black blades cutting across the stars wherever they appeared. Imperial fleets broke and ran. Stations went dark. Colonies surrendered without a fight. But the strange thing was this: the humans did not conquer. They did not burn cities. They did not enslave worlds. They only appeared, destroyed those who dared attack them, and then drifted on, silent as shadows. This made the people believe even more. For centuries they had lived under the Empire's fist, but now a new power had come, one that did not demand tribute, one that carried the weight of justice instead of greed. Whispers turned to chants. Chants turned to riots. Across dozens of worlds the people rose, painting the words on walls and banners. "We have returned." The Empire's soldiers struggled to hold the crowds, but even they no longer believed. Whole units laid down their arms, refusing to fire on their own citizens. Some even swore oaths to the humans they had never seen. Inside the Imperial Palace, the council collapsed into chaos. Governors shouted for war. Others begged for peace. Admirals stood silent, knowing neither was possible. The Emperor listened from his throne, his golden mask hiding his face, but even he could no longer hide the tremble in his hands. Then came the final broadcast. Every screen, every channel, every system went black. And then a single image appeared. Fleets of human warships, not one, not 10, but hundreds, thousands. Their black hulls glowing with faint blue fire. They filled the sky, stretching from one horizon to another. And then the voice returned, calm, steady, unshaken. "You betrayed us once, you buried our name. But history cannot be erased. We are humanity, and we have returned." The galaxy fell silent. No one moved. No one breathed. The Empire's nightmare was alive. The Emperor sank back into his throne, his voice soft. "We cannot fight this," but no one heard him, for outside, the stars themselves seemed to bow to the fleet of ghosts. On distant worlds, the people cheered, shouting the words again and again. "We have returned." On the border stations, soldiers lowered their weapons, waiting for the humans to pass. On the core planets, riots became uprisings, and the Empire shook at its very core. The admirals whispered the truth to one another. This is not invasion. This is judgment. And so the story closed where it began, with silence, the silence of space. Broken not by guns, not by fire, but by fear. The Empire trembled. The galaxy trembled. And in the heart of it all, the humans drifted forward. Unstoppable, calm, patient. They had returned not as conquerors, but as the memory that could never be killed. The Empire's greatest fear had come alive, and now, the galaxy would never forget their name again.